Hello and welcome to the show. I am here today on BeamNG Drive with 3 more vehicles being driven till destruction. And we start with an ETK. This is the W-series, essentially a classic Mercedes. Actually, a rather cool mod to have for this game. Now, I am driving the luxury spec of the car. Let's just reset. Oh no, let's just reset that. Not that 15 yards makes... Oh, that's range. Not that, you know, those little bits make a huge difference, but let's just go do that. Right, we will launch the Mercedes off and underway. So this is the luxury spec for the vehicle, 3 litre, I think, petrol engine in this one, rear wheel drive, decent chunk of power. Now it does, however, have an automatic gearbox. There wasn't a manual box, sorry, for the luxury spec. I could have gone in the parts configurator, but for this I'm going to be running the vehicles as they come from the when you select them, basically. So yeah, we're going to see how the automatic comfy Mercedes does around here, basically. The downside of an automatic box is, well, sometimes it's going to be in funny gears, and I don't know what it's going to do with the gears potentially in cars as they get damaged. Oh, you do not have much rear end grip at all. That's just... I wasn't even really doing anything stupid with the car there. I just tried to take a corner. The back end decided it had enough, and it was going to go round on us. Okay, sure, let's be a little bit wary of that. So it doesn't have a crazy amount of grip. Okay, this isn't the sport version of the car. You know, the suspension is probably set up to be more comfort than anything else, which is, I say, fair enough. That should probably keep us alive a little bit better around some of these sections on the course. If it's a little bit softer suspension, we will see how it goes. So far, nothing too bad has gone on this first lap. I think we bent up the front bumper a little bit, but that's about it. Now, jump-wise, it's a big jump for the Mercedes. I'll tell you what, actually, it's a big jump, but it's a good landing for the W-series there. One of the faster cars we've had going up there. Maybe the sunburst was a little... It's 70-odd miles an hour. But good landing. A good landing for the car there. This is looking like a solid first lap for the vehicle. Now, we know this next jump here is pretty brutal in terms of how you land. You want to be going quick enough over here not to be landing too heavy on the front. It's going to clonk the car, however you end up taking that. You just don't want to land nose into the ground as such. These next couple of jumps, these next couple of bumps, they're going to clonk out the radiator. Okay, well, that's kind of likely at some point. I think we may have done some suspension damage. I'm not surprised. It sounds terrible, but we are across all of there. Struggling a little bit with the gears, getting those in the right place at the right time. That is always the way it goes with one of the automatic boxes. Big jump off that final one. You just see it sort of judder through the car as it lands, but I mean, no real crazy harm done with this car. It looks terrible across these bumps. Can we try and stop the nose from hitting the ground too hard across here? Oh, so it's on the rear left. Rear left suspension, I think, is hanging down now. Or rear left corner is definitely lower than the right-hand side, I think, which would suggest we've got some form of damage. Definitely not liking the water as much that time around. Now, because as the vehicles get more and more broken, going across these sort of speed bumps here, if we do start seeing suspension collapsing, it'll start catching wheels, catching other bits and pieces. It's easy to get into... Well, this is to get in trouble. This is how these destruction series work. It's the gradual, repeated battering over the jumps that kills the cars, hopefully. Oh, we are going to clonk our way. Now, the radiator's gone. We haven't got any temperature, which suggests either we don't have temperature working on this car, possibly being a mod vehicle, or the temperature... Oh, no, we have got temperature. Okay, maybe the temperature gauge is being a bit funky. Sometimes that can happen. Also, when it says radiator broken, you can get varying degrees of leaks from them. You can have it all go immediately, or you can have a slow leak. That kind of thing can and will happen. You can see already. You can see how much damage affecting the car. We're a good few miles an hour slower across the jump that time around. The exhaust is gone in the car. Now that's not going to affect it as such, other than just make the vehicle noisier now, which is fine. I mean, it's of the things to be damaged, the exhaust is fairly minor. Now, I've got to say this is holding up very, very well so far. The overheating is going to kill it at the end of the day. That will cause it some grief. The rest of the car is being pretty damn strong, though. I will say that much. Oh. What I thought was damaged suspension I think there is something a little bit with the rear left. Oh! It was holding up really well, and then that's just done it. It's just the drive shaft's gone. I'm really surprised by that. The car was holding up so nicely. It was all going so well for the W-series. It was all going so well indeed, and just... that was the drive shaft. I'm amazed that would be where it would go. That seems like an unusual place for a drive shaft failure. It wasn't even a particularly big jump or a big heavy landing. Obviously it's just enough. We've bent the chassis enough such a way that the drive shaft has gone. That I wasn't expecting. I wasn't prepared for that. I thought this was going to be in for a long haul basically around this circuit. I was wrong. The W-series loses its drive shaft on the dirt, and that is that. It was doing very, very well up until that point. Up next, we move from the classic Mercedes onto a more modern Citroen. This is the Bitran B2. I have got the 1.6 litre VCR version, so it's kind of the sporty version, the road-going, sporty probably, well actually it is quite a good fun vehicle to drive in general, mess around with. Not destruction circuits, it does potentially struggle around these, shall we say. It's very small, it's very light, a little bit top-heavy perhaps, oh god, a little bit bumpy. Whoa! Quite oversteery, shall we say, for a little hatchback. It's very oversteery. But it's the wheel axles that are the massive concern with this car. As with any of the hatchbacks, you know, it is liable to have the wheel axles fail on this. Heavy impact on the front, lose a wheel axle, you lose drive, it's game over. We have lost the radiator. I was expecting that to happen quite easily with this car, if I'm honest. Even with it gone on the first lap, I'd be amazed if it went out from overheating. Now, I said that before about the vehicle that was at the cover, though. However, still, we will see how it goes around this one. I still think we'll lose a wheel axle before we lose the engine completely. Here we go across some bumps now. What are we going to do? Really want to try and keep... Oh, didn't really want to go for a roll, if I'm honest with you. We have lost a light at the front corner. Well, that's okay. We're driving around this in the daytime, so... that's fine. Through the spinners we go. I mean, this is one of the smaller vehicles, more manoeuvrable vehicles. Should be able to get through there, no problem. We're going to clobber our way across some of those bumps. Doesn't really do very much. It does look like the rear left has taken some damage. Actually, how has that taken some damage? Yeah, okay. We've got bad damage on the rear left, making it very difficult to steer. We do get a good landing over there. We've got just a lot of positive camber going on that rear left, which is not helping it with the handling department at all. Sure, okay. We'll be careful through this next section. I'd say careful through there. We don't quite have the speed of some cars that we have seen, and that's fair enough. It hasn't got the biggest of engines, but it's still got more than enough speed to clear all of the necessary bits, I would expect. This isn't going to hurt the front of the car. How are those front wheels doing? I mean, they're damaged, they're pushed back a little bit. Nothing crazy, though, at the moment going on there. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll jump it down here. This is where we saw the drive shaft go on that W-series. It rolled a little bit, it had some momentum, but not enough. We're going to complete a lap, I should think, unless, well... I say none of these bumps here I would expect to be necessarily car killers, like a one-hit kill, although... that's what I was thinking about with the W-series, and, well, we saw what happened with the drive shaft. Front of the car does seem to be dipping. That's bad. That's really bad. On the landing, it's going to skid across the line. You know what? That has killed the front wheel axle. Can I actually roll you over? I can roll you over. I don't think you're going to drive. It has made it onto a second lap. On its roof as it skidded across the finish line. It landed on the front corner. The front wheel axles were always likely to be suspect with the car, and that was always the fear. I guess it just landed a little bit too heavily on that front end, and over it went, and snap went the wheel axle. It's unlucky for the Bitran. It's very unlucky. I would have expected perhaps to have been able to survive that sort of a hit. An entertaining failure, but yeah, it is a failure nevertheless. It is turning out to be a rather destructive day around the Proving Ground circuit here. So I'm going to have to bring out, well, hopefully one of the big guns. In theory, this Roma, so this is an off-road spec Roma. We've got big chunky tyres, we've got lifted suspension. It's designed for off-roading. Now, admittedly, it's probably not designed for the kind of speedy off-roading that I'm going to be doing around here as such, but it should be able to soak up these bumps. It should be able to soak up the jumps for a little while. We will have to wait and see though, because this is the first, I guess you could say, suitable vehicle to be tackling this course, really. Now, the sign of any good destruction circuit that we've ever used is one that can kill both normal road cars and off-roaders as well. This is expected to survive. Of course, there are always outliers. Sometimes off-roaders don't do actually very well. Sometimes normal cars just keep on going as they get broken. And that's the fun of this series. We're expecting this, of course, to go well around this circuit because, well, it's got all-wheel drive, first of all. We've got locking diffs, so it can run on. If it loses a rear wheel, for example, it's still going to be able to drive. If we lose a front wheel, we're still going to be able to drive. It is slightly bigger, which does pose some concerns for getting through here, and the steering isn't great on it. And now there is another thing that you have to bear in mind with the off-roaders. Of course, the rules of this series, everything has to be driven as quick as it can around the circuit to make things interesting, otherwise everything should crawl around and survive indefinitely. But so it's got to be driven quite hard. And the thing you'll find with the off-roaders is, well, they can generally carry more speed, and that means when it does come to these jumps, etc., lap after lap they're going quicker, they're hitting harder on the ground. Also, higher ground clearance tends to lead to rolling over more. So you put all of that together, and, well, you can sometimes get into trouble. Sometimes rally cars, for example, or rally spec version of a car does worse than the normal spec because it's got just more speed going on, or it can do. Oh god, or they can roll slightly. I have got steering related issues. The fact the rear left of this doesn't look to be holding up too good. If the rear left looks really poorly in this. The suspension is soft in general. Oh no, we've lost some bits off the roof. The spare tyre, that is still good, but the jerry cans are gone, I think. So this has got heavy duty suspension on it. It's not going to collapse in the same way that some cars have done. In theory, you've still got to bear in mind that there is a lot of weight crashing down. Yes, the suspension is designed to an extent for this. It's just probably not designed for the repeated jumping of a massive truck. And it's the over time it's going to wear it down. That's the theory, at least. We have got steering damage currently. That's a big hit on the floor. That's not quite such a big hit on the secondary one. Front left is poorly. Front left's actually pulling quite a lot in this, but that's okay. We can keep the speed going for the moment. Careful through the water. Again, we're going to have no problems with that. We're going to have no problems with bottoming the vehicle out, which is always good. Across those horrible bumps we head. The radiator, oh god, can we make that turn? Yes, we can. The radiator on this is quite well protected, although it's a good thing. The temperature shot up to, I guess, normal operating temperature very easily. I fear if we lose the radiator on this car, it's going to get very hot very quickly. That section there, we don't really have any problems whatsoever. I'm kind of concerned about the spinners because at the best of times this doesn't actually drive through there very well. So it doesn't really have the greatest of grip, greatest of turning. If we start losing more in the way of steering, I think we could come undone in the spinners. Now, one hit from them might not kill this. It might be strong. Depends on how you get hit, of course. Oh god, it weaves its way. Okay, that was a good landing, actually, for the truck. That didn't really clonk too much this time around. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign indeed. If we can keep that up, that would be nice. I fear that we're going to... I fear what's going to do the damage with this is as that steering's braking, if it twists, if it catches me out just at the wrong time heading up that big ramp, that we might have an issue. Okay, again, another good landing. I say that. We landed quite heavily on one side, but we're not hearing the crunch that we heard from the W-series every time that landed, which means I think most of the suspension is currently dealing with the punishment quite well. It's not crashing into anything else. There's a little bit there, but I think it was just the back of the truck hitting the ground. Okay, off-road truck. We are doing good work here. Oh, that was a little bit of a crunch, but I don't know what from. Still doing really good work here, truck. Oh, we bounce, we wobble, we steer a little bit unevenly, but all is good in the world of the Roma. I'm actually running a little bit wide through turn 1. That's okay. Oh! Oh, we've lost a wheel! How the... Okay, now we've got issues. I don't know how the wheel fell off. We have lost a wheel. The front... that is just the classic taking damage over time has obviously hurt that wheel. It's lost the wheel, but the wheel's still actually there. I don't quite know how the wheel is still stuck on the bottom of the car. The wheel has not gone free, but it's also not affecting the vehicle's driving ability, so that's fine. This is the problem now with that corner gone. This sort of stuff is going to have to be a lot more difficult to avoid further pain. We really... I mean, so turning left is a problem in this because we just dive into the floor. The wheel has now got 3 of the car, so we are a 3-wheel Roma. I seem to remember a Roma did this before. I think it lost a rear wheel. In some ways I'd actually rather we'd lost a rear wheel than a front wheel. We are just about able to make the 20 mile an hour speed requirement. This may be a problem for us here, though. Oh! Oh! Okay, well, it took a hit. It was only a small hit, but it did take a hit from the thing. We've lost a door now as well. Okay. This is not a great situation we find ourselves in, if I'm honest with you. What's going to happen over these jumps now, I don't know. We have still got good power. Still got good speed from the V8. I presume it's a supercharged V8 in this. But we are not going to be as good. Okay, that's alright. It landed more on the... Again, it landed on the suspension rather than the missing wheel. I'm now slightly concerned if we land heavily on the other side, we're going to lose that wheel as well. Now, I know we clipped the wall a couple of times leaving the spinners. I know we clipped that wall a couple of times, and I wonder whether that might have done more damage than I realised. There were only light bumps, but maybe if I had the wheel turned, maybe it hit that. That's why it didn't take all that much. Oh. Okay, we've lost the front drive shaft now. Now we're a rear-wheel drive truck. I knew that was about to get into trouble because we've got so little speed going off that edge. It's going to land on the nose rather than kind of on the wheels. Rear-wheel drive is fine. I mean, we've still got enough drive going on. Oh, the front axle's gone as well. The exhaust is gone. We've lost steering. It's all fallen apart for the for the vehicle. Now, I might actually be able to... Oh, no. I was going to say, I might be able to get a little bit further, but it's actually just twisted us and rolled us down the hill that way. That fell apart so quickly. It just... Everything was fine. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. Wheel fell off. Still kind of worked. And then drive shaft wheel. It's just... Everything went all at once on that. I expected this to die in various different ways, I'll be honest. I had various scenarios and envisioned how this truck might get into trouble. Losing both front wheels was not what I ever envisioned. I'm going to be honest with you there. So yeah. That's the off-road Roma. That's not what I expected. Fantastically spectacular, I will give it that much. But not what I expected at all. So, on to our leaderboards, and we do not have a new leader in the form of the off-road Roma. No, while it did do pretty well, it'll go into second place. The Covert actually went further. Now, the distance is only a small indication. It's not a perfectly accurate thing, which is why the Roma looks a lot closer to the Covert. The Covert got a good few more corners before that overheated. Especially if a vehicle starts losing wheels, the distance indicator can become a little bit iffy. Regardless, though, the Covert beats the off-road Roma. The Roma does beat the Sunburst. However, we then have to go a little further down. ETK W-series would go out with that drive shaft failure. Similar place to the Moonhawk, which is a couple of corners later than the Moonhawk. That one would die. Drive shafts can get in trouble for some of these rear-wheel drive cars. It would see. We watched a drive shaft in the Roma as well. It's punishing this track. It's very punishing indeed. The Bitran, well, that'll be down in 9th place. A little bit unlucky for that car. It did seem to be doing okay. Well, the same could be said for the W-series. That was running very well until just sudden snap. The Bitran, Yeah, always going to be suspect, the wheel axles on those small, tiny, like, front-wheel drive cars. It was the same jump that the Kashira lost its wheel axle on. That managed to roll down the road a little further than the Bitran that was on its roof, but there we go. This is a punishing circuit. This is a very punishing circuit. There's absolutely no doubt about it. That, though, is going to be it for this video. As ever, I shall link all the mods used in the description so you can download them and have a go with them yourself. That, though, is going to be it from me. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.